boys, Ash here, coming at you today in Clash Royale. Today, I am so excited to be joined by Erick, Team Liquid coach and manager. And man, you've been around the scene for so long. Now, content creator as well. Erick, first time on the channel, man. Welcome.
Yeah, well, it's first time on Clash Royale side, but actually I came once for Clash of Clans Builder Hall when I switched over to that game for a couple months.
Dude, I gotta admit, man, I don't even remember having you on, dude. That's pretty cool.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Well, it has been a while, man, and I'm so thankful. Better late than never, I guess, to get you on the channel. First off, let's talk about like you as a content creator real quick. We're gonna jump into Egor's greatest hits from this last weekend. Just insane. This wins after wins after wins. Talk about life as a coach and manager, and talk about kind of like strategy and decks and stuff like that in the game. But first off, man, where are you streaming? What kind of content are you making right now?
On Twitch, it's more of like just for fun, casual kind of gameplay. We all joke around that I play like Lava Clone. I'm the best Lava Clone player in the world, just to mess around. And we play Lava Clone, listen to some music. It is mainly in Spanish though, although I do speak English pretty well as well. So any questions in English and stuff I answer, but it is mainly Spanish. And then YouTube, it's fully Spanish, interviews to like all the teams and pro guides and stuff like this on how to beat specific counters from. We're doing pro guides with Egor on Mortar and all this stuff. So very informative videos, as well as some spicy reviews of weekly content.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. So I'll include those links again to Erick's Twitter and his Twitch information in the show notes below. I would love to like look into that Egor Mortar breakdown too. So maybe one day you can do some English streams, maybe like once a week or something like that. We'll see.
Yeah. I actually on the pro guides, I do have English subtitles that I go in and put in manually. It takes forever, but
yeah,
on those videos, I do it just because it's worth it, so everyone can learn.
Awesome, man. Well, let's go ahead and I'm gonna press play on this very first match here against Anaban in 3, 2, 1, go. And but during this first match, rather than kind of going over the deck or Egor in specific, which we're gonna spend most of our time on in the latter portion of today's video. Talk a little bit about, your background. We talked about Clash of Clans. You obviously got into Clash Royale early. You've been around since beta days. But what made you want to be a coach, competitive manager inside the game, and kind of talk a little bit about your history as a player and then how it evolved?
Yeah, for sure. So as you said, I was in here since day one of Clash. And it basically came down to the fact that I'm someone that likes to be in a leadership position. I've always been the leader, the captain of my team. Early on, I decided to make one of the first competitive only clans with, back in the day, Galadon with FA tournament. And it included CMC and Trainer Chris and all these people. And obviously I was good back then. I won a couple 15K tournaments and all this. But as time went on, I realized like, okay, these guys are a lot better than me. And what I can really give to a team is that leadership role. I am older than most of the competitive community. And I do understand a lot of the strategy. And I think with mind games and all that, I was very, very good with, as well as lineups and managing the personalities on my team. I've always dealt with, I think, the biggest personalities in Clash at the moment, like CMC was back in the day. Now, obviously, my team has Surgical and Canario and all these people. So I think it's just something that's my personality. And I saw that it fit perfectly into that coaching and managing role because of my knowledge of the game as well.
Yeah, man, it seems like your players love you, and that's the thing that I wanted to ask you about specifically. Again, we'll talk about Egor the majority of this video, but let's talk about, Canario, Diego, and Surge for a sec. And, in terms of, obviously, you've been with this team this is your third year, correct?
Second year.
So second year. So talk about, these personalities. You are like, I'm from Boston area. So like we had Terry Francona in the Boston Red Sox and like he had to manage a bunch of big personalities. And you see that in sports franchises as well, right? But talk about it. Like obviously these guys are good dudes. You have a good team, right? And they're good people on there. So it's not like they're troublemakers per se, but talk a little bit about what it's like managing these probably bigger egos, rightfully so, players who are all incredibly capable. How have you learned to deal with that? And, what are some of the strategies you employ?
Yeah, for sure. So first off, I think the biggest point is that we turned the team more into a family. It's something that I've always done with my teams. I stick with my teams. I don't really go with other players. Before Liquid, I was with CMC, Chris, and all of them for 3 years. And now I'm on my second year with these guys. And it's basically, I made sure that they understood that inside the game, when we're competing and we're practicing and all that, there's no real questioning on like, if I say practice is at this time, practice is at this time, and there's nothing really outside of that. Like, I understand they have opinions and all this, but my job is that, and they understand that. But outside the game, I am their best friend. I am their mentor. I am everything. And they know they could come to me for absolutely anything. And then if I need to tell them something, I will be upfront with them. And I think that trust that we have is something that with bigger guys with these egos and all that, they don't really have egos, to be honest. They obviously have more than someone that's not at their level. But with them, it's something that's super valuable to them, knowing that I'm not scared to tell them, up front, like, look, you messed up. Look, this is wrong. When other coaches would beat around the bush not to, go
Offend
into
them
surgical like that and all that. So I think they respect me a lot and they value that out of me. And that's something that you have to do when you're managing such big personalities on a team. I think that's basically some of the strategies that I would give you.
No, I love that leadership kind of breakdown too, because and you can tell that your players love you. Just like watching you on social media throughout the years and stuff, that you're very well respected. Like anybody that you've ever worked with and stuff like that, never really heard anybody say a negative thing about you. So it's obviously working for you. So kudos to you and congratulations, obviously, to the World Championship last year in CRL. So I kind of wanted to ask you about. One last question about the team in general before we kind of move into this stuff here is, so you have, Diego's kind of moved in, it seems like, to a specialist, a role on the team, but at the same time, still an incredibly capable, great player, goes back to beta days as well. And then you still have Canario and Serge and Egor now, who has really taken the main stage as one of the best 1v1 players in the game. So, like, how do you decide who's going to play in the big moments here with, like, all this embarrassment of riches in terms of talent?
Yeah, this is probably like the hardest part of my job when it comes to making lineups, because I think any single person on my roster could be the starting 1v1 or 2v2 on any team in CRL. But what we talk about at the beginning of every season, and they know this is the way I work, is whoever's playing the best at the moment will play the match. It has nothing to do with favoritism. I don't care if Surgical has won every tournament there is to win, or if Canario has the best win rate in the history of CRL, or Diego is the best player from Mexico. That doesn't matter to me. I've switched up 2v2s season after season. I even switched up the 2v2 for World Finals, and we went back to Diego and Canario. Whoever's putting in that work and really the meta is in their favor and feels comfortable plays. And I think that makes it a lot easier for me and for the team to build that more of that trust when it comes to lineups. Whenever I tell Surgical, look, Egor is going to play, Surgical doesn't doubt me because he knows that if he's in the better level, I will put Surgical. It's not because Egor is the new phenom or all this. Mm-hmm. And the same thing with Egor. I sat him out, I think 3 or 4 times in No Tilt Special Edition. It's simply you have to stay without favoritism. You have to stay without all the hype from the crowd or the fans. And obviously, people wanted to see Egor versus Anavan in No Tilt Special Edition, but I had to make the decision that Surgical was in a better moment that time, and I had to do it for my team. And that's how all my decisions go through.
I love that, man, and shout out to Rich Slayton and Andrew Guy on the background right now, guys. We're gonna go ahead and move into the next match, featuring Egor, and make sure our times are set, and we'll be right back. All right, so next question for you as we go into this next match, Erick, is what should my viewers who are not aspiring pro players, but what should we be looking out for in terms of tangible tips that we can kind of apply to our own playstyle, our own decks? Should we just be blindly copying and pasting these decks, trying to emulate the pros? Like, what should we be looking out for as viewers when we watch CRL?
Yeah, I think this is actually a perfect example with Egor and Anaban. We just saw a match that went all the way to the end. Time actually ran out. Apart from obviously using the decks that you can from these pros, I think the most important thing that I see in casual players or people that are semi-pros or looking to, better their game in a general sense is to avoid that desperation moment within your game. That moment where, okay, I took damage, now I need to attack. It's not really like that. You don't need to attack. You have time. Your tower is still up. And even if it's down, you can still make a comeback as long as there's time. But if you just throw everything on the bridge or you get a little desperate, the match is just going to get worse for you. So as you see CRL and all these matches, you're going to see that a lot of them go into extra time or even all the way down to the wire, because you have to, one, understand your type of deck. If it's a cycle deck, make sure your cycles are good, all these things. But also you have to understand that just rushing into it or hitting that desperation moment where you're just going to put stuff on the bridge will only make it harder for you and worse for you. So take a deep breath when you're down, figure out how you can win the match. You're still in it. And basically, I think that's a very big thing that you can learn from these pros. See how they come back in these matches, or even when you're winning. Don't get desperate to get that second crown or all that. Sometimes it's good to just defend. And I think both of these matches that we're watching now is something that you can learn from, because this is another match that went all the way to the end. Egor figured out, look, I have Expo here. I'm playing against Royal Giant. How do I win this match?
Right.
Defense. This is defense. I need to defend. I'll figure it out with my spells later on. But he never got desperate. He didn't play an offensive Expo no matter what. Even I think later on he misses a Tesla and everything, and he takes 800 or 900 damage. He then completes his strategy for this game. He didn't get desperate and put an Expo offensively and try to protect it and all this. You have to stay calm. Don't enter desperation mode and just figure out how to win. Yeah, right here is where he misses.
The miss Tesla. Yeah. And as a coach, like, how do you prepare players for like awful matchups? Like, obviously you can't, but like you try to pick decks that you think that will, lead to success given the player that you're going against and stuff like that. But, in a situation like this, obviously it worked out for him. And this is an incredible, incredible victory here. You must have been like surprised. Are you surprised yourself at this point when your players pull off these incredible wins?
Actually, I know it sounds crazy, Ash. I know it sounds crazy, but we were hoping for a matchup like this. Egor feels super comfortable in matchups like this.
Okay.
It's something that he loves. He thinks that, this is actually like something we looked for.
So as long as you can defend, he figures with this deck, which you can, then he's comfortable just being, an ace on defense and then rocket cycling when he gets the opportunity.
Exactly. Yeah, he's one of the best mechanical players in the world, no doubt. And he knows how to defend this perfectly. And the whole plan and the whole strategy that we had was, okay, you're going to defend for 5 minutes. And at the end, in triple elixir, we're going to throw a couple rockets, a couple logs, and we're going to win the game.
Wow.
So yeah, it was the game plan. It was something we were looking for. He's a mortar player, so we knew they were going to come with Earthquake and Royal Giant and all this stuff. But he felt super comfortable with this, and obviously we trust him.
That's a good point, and I'm glad that you answered that way too, because it's just like, as a viewer, when I was watching this, I'm like, oh man, like Egor couldn't have hoped for a worse matchup here, or I should say, Innovate couldn't help for a better one. Like you said, Royal Giant, cycle cards, and Earthquake. It's like, yeah, man, how does he lose this? But you can see that Egor somehow, some way, able to do it in the way, I guess, the way you kind of demonstrated, just a lot of smart defense here. Egor, as a player himself, I mean, did you know when he joined Liquid for the first time that he was this good? Obviously known as a ladder mortar player, as like mortar god. But did you know that he was this versatile and this just great under pressure?
So basically it's a funny story. If you have time, I'll tell you it.
Let's just go to the next match and then sync up and then tell the story. All right, so let's hear the story, man, about Egor.
Okay, so basically I was joining up on Liquid last year, March. Surgical was having a little bit of trouble playing against Mortar, so I reached out to Egor knowing that he was the best Mortar player in the world. I was like, hey, do you mind practicing with Surge for a little? He was actually super excited, and he came to practice, and I just saw mechanics that I could not pass up. Like, I have not seen that in so long out of any player, that both Surge and I were in call, and we're like, all right, this is like the next big thing. I asked him how old he was because CRL hasn't started yet, and I was like, maybe we could actually bring him in right away. He was 15, so he wasn't old enough until the next split, late next split. I was like, okay, I'm going to still invite you to these practices and all this stuff. It happened that we ended up dropping a player, and a bunch of players obviously wanted to come to Liquid. We had just won the split and all this, but we did a tryout, and Egor, I told him, look, I don't want you just running Mortar. Show me what you can do. And he played all types of decks, minor decks, even heavy decks like Llama and all this. And he went undefeated in the tryout versus other CRL pros. And then he even went on to beat Canario, Surge, and Diego in the last phase when I told him, look, if you don't beat these guys, I'm not picking you up. So I put all the pressure on him. I was still going to pick him up, but I wanted to see how he did under pressure.
I like that. Yeah. And
he absolutely killed it. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And then, you know, I think on the world stage, the first time everybody knew about him was in the World Finals last year. Any thoughts on that? Like his performance in general?
I mean, you can't even dream of a better debut than what he did. To be realistic, like we all had confidence that he was going to go out and win, but I would be lying if I said I thought he was going to go out and sweep 5-0. You know, like you can't expect that out of anyone, not even Canario, Surgical, Morgan, no one.
Yeah.
So for him to do that on his first ever live event
on the big stage, right?
Yeah. It was like there was a live audience, which usually doesn't happen in CRL. And he just went out there like if he was at home playing. It was crazy.
How do you think that Egor went from being like a deck specialist in Mortar to an all-around great player? Do you think he always was and he just excelled at Mortar?
Yeah, I think really it comes down to the fact that he never played competitive. So when you're playing on ladder, you don't need deck variation. You can just play what you enjoy the most and what you are best at. But I think what makes him such a good player is, one, his understanding. You can see him in all these matches take advantage of the cycle of the other player. He predicts a lot of things. He's always like 1 or 2 steps ahead of everyone, but his mechanics are also on another level. So obviously the combination of both just let him play whatever he wants.
And you can see that in this match here. Like you said it perfectly. 1 step or 2 steps ahead of everybody. It almost feels like he's making moves, already knowing exactly what the player's going to do in 2 moves, you know? And it's really, even in this match right now, it's just incredible stuff here from Egor. Tell us a little bit about Egor. He's never been on the channel on voice because of obviously the language barrier, a Russian player. What is he like personally? Like, is he one of the leaders of the team? Is he a soft-spoken guy, or what is he like?
He's honestly not a leader of the team. I think obviously we have a lot of big personalities, including myself. I'm someone that likes to lead a lot. Surgical is the captain of the team. And then Canario and Diego also have a big voice. Egor kind of knew that coming in, his role was, I'm here because I'm one of the best players in the world and I'm happy to be here and I'm going to fill my role. Obviously, he doesn't speak English fluently, not even close to fluent. So it's even harder for him to become one of those leaders, but he's a super happy person. It's something that we didn't expect that much of because we didn't know him personally, but when he showed up to Los Angeles, he's always laughing. He's always good vibes to the team.
That's awesome.
No matter if we win or lose, his demeanor is always happy and it's always, okay, we're going to come back and I'm going to make this happen and have faith in me. And, you know, it's a great role to have on a team.
That's awesome to have. Yeah, like that positive energy, especially not being in your home country, you know, and having to adjust where you don't really understand a lot of what people are saying around you. So it's really nice. And it sounds like you guys have like a really good team chemistry to bring him into as well. Let's go to the next match, Erick. So this is the battle of the OG kind of ladder gods here in formerly Hazard, now Egor versus Pompeo. Before we get into these last 2 matches, last question to you in terms of generally speaking here, Erick, is if my viewers want to get better at a certain deck, like how does a pro master a new deck or something, a deck that they're uncomfortable with? Like what would you advise in terms of strategy and kind of routine / habits on picking up a deck for the first time and getting way better at it?
Yeah, so first of all, obviously, there's no shortcut to investing time in it. You need to practice it as much as you can. There's a lot of helpful videos from pros nowadays that you're one of the channels that does this. You bring on the pros and they explain it and all this. And really pay attention to the tips that they give. I think it's huge when we are getting Egor to play new decks that he's not used to, for example, like Graveyard and all that. Diego's a great Graveyard player. So he explains specific tips that Egor, and obviously he's one of the best players, but at the beginning, he doesn't play it correctly. And he goes back and he watches his videos. And he said, okay, why did I do this when I could have done this? Like Diego told me. Or when did I lose this game? When did I lose control of this game? And really be like a self-critic. I think that's the best way to move on and become better with each new archetype that you're trying to pick up. And like I said, time. You have to invest time and you have to practice it.
Yeah, so it sounds like, you know, obviously my viewers don't have access to pros to just, you know, the best Graveyard player in the world to ask questions to, but it does sound like maybe if you just have a player who excels with one specific archetype in your clan, for example, just ask them to take a look at your replays and try to apply that to your next match.
Yeah, and also they do have access to your videos, which is cool.
and all the people in your streams and all the other
Yeah,
streamers and stuff like that. So yeah, there is a ton of content out there. So it's a good point as well.
exactly.
Now getting into these matches here, I've been saying like half the video that we're going to talk about the matches, but talk a little bit, like bring us into this match. We're going into double elixir time, and I don't know. So far, Egor is on his way to a reverse sweep, as we know now. But how do you feel about these matchups? Like a matchup like this, how do you feel about him running mortar in general? Anything that comes to mind?
Oh, I feel great of him running mortar. It's like a joke we have where people say, oh, it's a hard counter. We go, no, Egor, anytime he runs mortar, it's minimum of 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
He always has a chance to win. It's honestly a mind game at this point. Obviously, all the teams know that he loves mortar, but you never know when he's going to pull it out. And he pulled it out first game. So we were like, okay, they're not going to expect it again.
Second
Let's
game,
run
yeah.
it again. So he ran it again. This is actually a great matchup for him. The Inferno Tower doesn't really do much. The Poison doesn't really do much. And Egor actually won this game very early on. He
with that Prince and Bats kind of,
yeah, he took him out of cycle, and then Pompeo put a miner to his tower. And Egor, being Egor, obviously, I wouldn't have done it. Most of us wouldn't have done it, but he realized that the elixir was low on Pompeo, and that he had all his defenses for the Prince were gone and Bats. So instead of defending that miner like most of us would, he just went Prince Bats on the bridge, and it was probably game over right there.
And that's insane, man. Like that, you can't teach that, right? Unless you're just absolutely, I mean, you just have to teach focus, but there's in concentration, but you can't teach like having the wherewithal to immediately attack with Prince Bats and ignore the miner, But yeah, that's definitely unreal. Let's go to the last match here and talk about how he brought home the victory. So here we go, facing off against Anaban. So you knew this match was, a lot riding on it here, obviously. So what do you go with against Anaban, or how do you coach Egor up for this match here?
Yeah, so basically we just ran mortar twice. We had a plan. We knew Egor was going to play versus Anaban in the 1v1 set, and we only had to show 2 decks in that set. So we still had another deck prepared for Anaban, which was perfect for us that he hadn't shown this. We knew in general they just ran 2 cycle decks versus us. Most like the odds are that they're going to run something heavy now. And we took this deck that usually comes with Goblin Cage in the fast cycle and all this, and we put an Inferno Tower in. Why? Because Anaban likes to play his Balloon Pekka, and he likes to play these heavy decks, especially versus Egor. And they had already used Earthquake versus us, and it didn't work. So we were like, okay, odds are they're not going to have Earthquake. They're not going to have this quick solution to it. Let's put this Inferno Tower, catch him by surprise, and we're going to win this game. And it effectively here is where you see that surprise really works out to our favor, because he saw the deck. Obviously, these pros know as soon as they see 3 or 4 cards, they're like, okay, I'm playing against this.
Yeah.
He expected this deck to have Goblin Cage. He said, okay, I'm going to put a Golem down, and I'll take the Tower Trade or something like this. And he gets a free Inferno Tower here that no one expected us to have. And basically ate up the complete Golem. He had no defense for it, no way to get rid of it, to say the least. And then it was all in Egor's favor the rest of the match.
Yeah, that was that surprise Inferno Tower too, and I noticed it like a couple times now on these matches. Egor has used kind of unorthodox like tornadoes. We saw it with the Dark Prince earlier, and log pretty aggressively at times. Otherwise, very conservatively at times. Like, why does I'm not sure if he caught that tornado early on, but why does he make plays like that?
I think it's just something of the way he's wired, to say it like that. His play style is very different to everyone else.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people think the same way he does, but like I said, he's always 1 or 2 steps ahead. So
yeah, he's like a beautiful mind, He's got like this.
Yeah. It's amazing, really, to make. Like, I sit there, I coach him every day, and I'm in awe. Like, I'm just like, oh, this is awesome. Like, my job is to watch him every day. But yeah, he's thinking 30 seconds ahead in the match. So he's like, okay, if I defend with this now, he has Golem, I might as well just throw this tornado, get a little bit of damage, get rid of the shield, and then I'll still have this defense for later on and this elixir. So like, he's not scared of using a less orthodox defense, even if it cost him a little more, to better position himself later on.
I got it. So like maybe he didn't like his cycle at the time. Maybe again he's thinking like
Yeah.
of several moves in advance. So sometimes you just can't pick up on these things just by watching. You know, you need to know like what cards he has in hand, and but it's really just incredible stuff, man. I'm so impressed. Even watching this back again, I'm just like, dude, this guy's insane. Do you think he's the best player in the world right now, or like I mean, it's kind of a you might be biased, but still.
I am obviously biased, but at the same time, I think Ruben from Queso is the best
Yeah.
player in the world right now. In the competitive scene, I
Mhm.
think overall, when you compare players that do it on ladder and competitive, there's no real question that it's Egor. He's won ladder 5 times and a world championship in competitive. So there's not much to say there.
I got you. So best all-around player, Igor, but competitive, Ruben. How do you compare, just out of curiosity, how do you compare Ruben's gameplay to Igor? Like, what do you see out of Ruben that you really admire?
I think his ability to win so many hard counters is incredible to me. You watch Ruben play, and it doesn't matter what deck he's using or what style, or if the opponent has 100-0 matchup to say like that, he always is calm and he waits for your mistake at all times. He is never the initiator. If you watch his matchups, he'll never play the first card. He'll never be offensive. He just waits. His patience is incredible to me. Like I all of us play the game, and you know if you're there for 30 seconds and someone throws a card, you're like, okay, I gotta go. I gotta
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
he can be match on the line, CRL match on the line, and he's just he's calm. He doesn't care. He's waiting and waiting until he gets his chance. It's crazy.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. And Igor finishes off with the tornado log fireball cycle there. And again, you saw it towards the end of that match, like we were talking about earlier, Eric, where, you know, he had that tower down to like whatever, very low HP for a while, 500 or so HP. And he just patience, kept defending. He seemed to be like cool, calm, and collected the entire time and able to come away with an incredible like overall sweep, not one loss there. So yeah, hats off to Igor. And Eric, thank you so much for coming on, man. You were great, really breaking down, you know, what it's like managing these players, what's it like as a coach, and how my viewers can also, you know, take what they see and kind of actually improve in the game. Any final thoughts before we let you go?
No, just thank you so much for having me. And like I said, like you just recapped, also patience is key in this game. Don't get desperate to take down towers. I think that's my biggest giveaway to the people watching this and that want to learn and take away from the matches that they saw in this sweep. It was all about patience from both players, not just Igor. And yeah, thank you for having me. And I hope that everyone enjoys the video.
Yeah, man. Well, we'll do this more often. We got to get you back because this is, to me personally, this is like my favorite type of content to make. So thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that's going to do it. Check out Erick's player. What the hell? I'll include his player stats and profile links at Royale.com in the show notes below. I'll also include the entire Team Liquid roster if you guys want to follow them, as well as Erick, obviously, in the show notes. And, of course, where you can watch CRL live every weekend. That link will be Clash Royale Esports in the show notes as well. Guys, thanks so much for watching. And a huge shout out to Erick again for coming on, and to Bren Chong, my YouTube partner. Check out his information as well. Thanks. And as always, take care, guys.